A normal semi carries freight. These trucks carry the kind of loads that close highways, demand escort crews, punish drivetrains, and make ordinary 18-wheelers look seriously underbuilt. One descends a mountain while an entire forest pushes from behind. Another moves industrial equipment through gaps barely wider than the cargo. And the final machine faces the one condition that can make hundreds of horsepower almost useless. This is not just a contest of engine power. It is a countdown through longer road trains, steeper grades, tighter streets, broken terrain, and loads that force every part of a truck to fight for survival. By the final three, the engine is only part of the battle. The ground itself starts fighting back. Most modern trucks are designed to save fuel, cut through the air, and blend into traffic. The Peterbilt 389 has no interest in blending in. Its hood stretches far ahead of the windshield, twin exhaust stacks rise behind the cab, and the chrome grille looks like someone removed the entrance of a bank and gave it 18 wheels. This is the classic American big rig. Depending on the build, a 389 may use a Cummins ISX-15 producing around 600 horsepower, paired with an 18-speed manual transmission. But the numbers are not what make the Peterbilt memorable. It is the view from behind the wheel. You sit behind a long wall of diesel machinery. The hood fills the lower part of the windshield. Every downshift is deliberate. Every vibration moves through a truck built to spend years crossing the country under load. Start climbing through the Rockies, and the machine begins talking back. The engine digs in. The transmission drops a gear. The exhaust note becomes heavier. And the driver is no longer simply traveling. He is managing a loaded trailer, changing grades, and enough steel to make a family sedan look like loose luggage. The 389 is not the wildest truck here. It is the reference point. This is what American Highway Authority looks like before the trailers multiply, the pavement narrows, and the route begins behaving like an enemy. Because in America, one tractor pulling one trailer is normal. Australia looked at that arrangement and apparently decided it lacked ambition. In Australia, every foot matters. The longer the tractor becomes, the less legal space remains for trailers. So the Kenworth K200 removes the long hood and places the driver directly over the engine. You are not sitting behind the powertrain. You are sitting on top of it. That compact cab-over design leaves more room for the real spectacle behind the truck. Trailer number 1 appears, then number 2, then number 3. Sometimes a fourth one follows, because apparently the first 3 did not create enough paperwork. These machines are called road trains, and the name is not an exaggeration. A loaded setup can place more than 90 tons behind the cab, stretching across the Australian interior like a freight train that somehow missed the rails. The K200 may use a Cummins X15 beneath the floor. From the driver's seat, that means the engine is not somewhere far ahead beneath a hood. It is working directly below you. Now add the Outback. Temperatures can push beyond 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat rises from the pavement. Dust works its way toward filters, joints, and cooling surfaces. The horizon seems to move farther away every time the truck reaches it. Air conditioning is not a luxury here. It is survival with vents. The driver also gets a flat floor, sleeping space, and a wide view of the road ahead. But the real value of the cab is that it keeps a human functional across distances where a breakdown can leave the entire train sitting beneath the sun. The K200 does not look enormous from the front. Then the camera moves to the side. The trailers keep coming. For several seconds, the road train does not cross the horizon. It replaces it. The K200 wins by saving every possible inch. But length is only one way a load can attack a truck. In the forests of British Columbia, The next machine faced an enemy waiting at the bottom of the mountain. The most dangerous part of a logging run is not always the climb. Sometimes it is the moment the truck turns around. The Hayes HDX worked on the logging roads of British Columbia, where a route could change from mud to ice and steep grades left almost no room for mistakes. Behind the truck sat enormous timber loads. Some logs looked less like cargo and more like support columns stolen from a giant building. Stack enough of them on a trailer, and the Hayes itself begins to look like the hitch attached to the load. Now send that rig down a grade approaching 20%. Gravity does not politely follow the truck. It shoves. The logs press forward through the trailer. The brakes begin converting speed into heat. The driver has to control enough timber to make one bad decision permanent. The HDX used a reinforced double frame, heavy steel components, and water-cooled braking systems. That cooling system existed because conventional brakes could overheat during a long, fully loaded descent. Once brake fade begins, pressing harder does not guarantee more control. The driver has to manage the engine brake, the service brakes, the cooling water, the steering, the road surface, and the timber behind him, all at once. You are looking down the mountain. The cab is vibrating. Mud is collecting beneath the tires. The trailer is pushing, and the next curve is already waiting. There is no glamorous burst of acceleration here. The best ending is the one where almost nothing happens. The Hayes reaches the bottom. The brakes still work. The forest is still behind it. Nothing has gone through a guardrail. The HDX wins by preventing gravity from becoming the driver. The Hayes survives a mountain that can destroy a truck in minutes. The next machine faces a different kind of punishment: heat, dust, vibration, and heavy trailers attacking it for days at a time. A mountain eventually ends. The Australian outback can feel like it does not. The Kenworth T909 is not built around one terrifying moment. It is built to survive punishment that keeps returning mile after mile. Heat attacks the cooling system. Dust attacks the filters. Vibration travels through the truck, and every additional trailer sends another movement toward the tractor. The K200 hides its engine beneath the driver to save length. The T909 takes the opposite approach. It places a giant hood in front of the cab and gives the machinery room to breathe. That long nose is not only there for appearance. Behind the grille is the cooling capacity needed to keep a heavily loaded truck working through extreme heat and continuous strain. A T909 may haul livestock, freight, or mining equipment across routes where red dirt gets into everything, and the next major service point can be hundreds of miles away. There is no easy reset. The cooling system does not get a long break. The filters keep collecting dust. The tires keep absorbing heat. The trailers keep rolling over the same rough surface, each one sending another shock forward through the couplings. From the cab, the line of freight behind you can feel almost disconnected from the tractor. The first trailer reacts when you turn. The second reacts a moment later. The final one may still be entering the curve after the truck has already straightened out. Then the wind arrives. Each trailer becomes a wall for the crosswind to push against. The driver makes one correction at the front and waits for that decision to travel through the entire train. This is not one dramatic fight. It is mechanical attrition. A small cooling problem becomes dangerous because the truck cannot escape the heat. A damaged component becomes serious because the nearest workshop may be far behind the horizon. A vibration that means nothing for 10 miles matters after 1,000. The T909 exists for that 1,000th mile, then the mile after it, and the one after that. The Hayes survives one brutal descent. The T909 survives the punishment that refuses to end. After all that heat, dust, and exposed machinery, Number 5 hides enormous power inside something far more polished. Start a Scania S770, and you do not hear the sharp scream of a sports car. You hear a low mechanical pulse. Beneath the cab sits a 16.4-liter V8, producing 770 horsepower. The sound moves through the truck before the wheels even begin rolling. Outside, the S770 is one of the strongest production road trucks in its class. Inside, it feels strangely calm. The controls are clean. The cab is quiet. The driver sits in an environment closer to a Scandinavian office than the cockpit of a heavy haul machine. That contrast is the trick. The Scania does not remove the weight behind it. It removes the drama. When the highway begins climbing, the V8 settles into a deep growl. The transmission keeps the engine inside its strongest range, and the truck continues pulling without sounding desperate. The trailer is still heavy. The grade is still there. But the fight feels controlled. This is 770 horsepower wearing a tailored suit. Smooth power still creates violent forces farther back. The next truck was built to keep the engine, the terrain, and the load from twisting the entire operation apart. The Bulldog on the hood is small. Everything beneath it is built for work on a much larger scale. In Australian specification, the Max Superliner can carry a 16-liter MP10 engine producing close to 685 horsepower. That is serious output. But watch what happens when the road stops being level. One rear wheel climbs. The opposite side drops. The tractor leans, but the loaded trailer keeps pulling through the center of the fifth wheel. For a moment, the front and rear of the truck are being forced in different directions. The engine twists the driveline. The suspension moves unevenly. The trailer pulls backward. And all of that pressure meets inside the structure underneath the cab. That is why reinforced construction matters. The Superliner does not simply pull heavy freight. It has to prevent the load and the terrain from slowly twisting the truck apart. A tire drops into a rut. The trailer shifts. The driver corrects. Seconds later, another axle reaches the same hole, and the movement begins again. One side compresses. The other rises. The fifth wheel stays loaded through the center. The backbone of the truck has to hold its shape through all of it. This is the part of heavy hauling horsepower figures do not show. The engine creates the force. The suspension follows the terrain. The reinforced structure keeps everything attached to the same machine. The Mack needs room because the load can pull from every direction. At number 3, that room disappears. Now, nearly 500,000 pounds has almost nowhere to turn. The Mercedes-Benz Actros 4163 SLT does not need to look outrageous. The load behind it handles that job. This machine was designed to move weights approaching 500,000 pounds. But mass is only half the problem. The other half is the route. The Actros may have to move industrial equipment through narrow highways, tight roundabouts, old villages, and streets that existed long before anyone imagined a 100-foot wind turbine blade passing through them. Picture the scene. The truck is moving at walking speed. A building stands inches from one side of the cargo. A signpost sits inches from the other. Spotters are calling directions. The trailer axles are steering. Everyone is staring at the same narrow gap. The driver cannot simply add more throttle and hope the village moves out of the way. With that much weight behind the cab, getting started is a challenge by itself. A conventional clutch can be placed under enormous stress while trying to move the haul from rest. Mercedes uses a turbo retarder clutch, a fluid system that allows the truck to bring the weight into motion without sending one violent shock through a traditional clutch. The engine builds force. The truck begins to move. Nearly 500,000 pounds follows. slowly, quietly, far too close to someone's house. This is heavy hauling performed like surgery. One careless movement can damage the cargo, the truck, or a building that has been standing there longer than the trucking company. The actros does not make the impossible look violent. It makes it look uncomfortable for everyone watching. But it still relies on a planned route and engineered ground. At number 2, the road becomes a suggestion. Calling the Kenworth C509 a highway truck is generous. It looks like a mining vehicle that somehow completed the paperwork necessary to use a public road. The C509 sits between a heavy tractor and industrial off-road equipment. It carries higher ground clearance, hub reduction axles, and heavy-duty underpinnings designed for work far beyond clean pavement. This truck may haul excavators, industrial modules, and mining machinery through deep sand, broken ground, river crossings, and remote regions where lane markings would be a form of comedy. Total operating weights can exceed 400,000 pounds. On asphalt, that would already be serious. Off-road, every pound becomes harder to move. A tire drops into soft ground. One axle begins losing traction. The trailer pushes from behind. The driver adds power. But too much throttle can dig the wheels deeper instead of moving the load forward. That is where the hub reduction axles matter. They multiply torque at the wheels, trading speed for the ability to keep enormous weight moving through resistance. And speed is not the goal here. Control is. Imagine looking into the mirrors and seeing an industrial module rising behind the cab like a building that has decided to relocate. Ahead, there are no smooth shoulders, no guardrails, no convenient repair shop. Only sand, rocks, water, and a route chosen because every easier path was impossible. A breakdown here is not a quick stop with hazard lights. It can immobilize an entire convoy far from conventional workshops and recovery equipment. The C509 does not simply carry machinery to an industrial site. For several hours, the truck, trailer, escort crews, and cargo become the industrial site. It has the height, the ground clearance, the heavy-duty construction, the off-road stance. Everything about the C509 looks like a final boss. But the final position is decided somewhere this hardware cannot guarantee victory. A frozen incline, almost no grip, and a load that does not want to move. After 8 machines with giant hoods, logging equipment, road train trailers, and mining hardware, this one may feel like a mistake. The Volvo FH16750 resembles a modern European tractor you could pass on a highway without looking twice. Clean cab, controlled design, no giant chrome hood, no mining-style ground clearance, no obvious warning that something unreasonable is about to happen. Then the camera pulls back. Behind the Volvo is a haul weighing around 650 metric tons, roughly 1.4 million pounds, and the road is covered in snow. The FH16 uses a 16-liter engine producing 750 horsepower, but on frozen ground, horsepower alone can become almost useless. The engine can produce all the torque it wants. If the tires cannot transfer that force into the surface, the wheels spin and the truck stays exactly where it is. Volvo's I-shift transmission uses ultra-low crawler gears to apply power at extremely low speed. That matters because a normal first gear can still be too fast when a truck is trying to start hundreds of metric tons on a snowy incline. Now put yourself behind the wheel. You release the brake. The trailers immediately try to pull the Volvo backward. You touch the throttle. The engine begins building torque. The entire rig loads against the weight behind it. The tires press into the snow. For a moment, nothing seems to happen. The truck does not leap forward. It barely moves at all. Then one tire advances. The Volvo moves an inch. That inch is the entire battle. Once roughly 650 metric tons begin moving uphill, The hardest part has already happened. The transmission keeps the speed painfully low. The tires search for grip instead of wasting power through wheel spin. The massive setup continues forward. Snow beneath the tires, gravity pulling backward. More than 1 million pounds following the cab. And at the front of it all is a truck that still looks almost ordinary. That is the twist. The C509 looks like a machine built to move industrial equipment through the end of the world. The Volvo looks like it should be delivering normal freight. But it moved the largest stated load in this countdown and started it from rest on a surface where traction should have been the first thing to disappear. The biggest surprise is not that the FH16 looks enormous, it is that it does not. These trucks do not make weight disappear. They simply keep moving while heat, gravity, ice, distance, tight streets, broken ground, and the road itself try to stop them. So which machine deserves the crown? The Kenworth C509, built for places where roads barely exist, or the Volvo that moved the heaviest load in the entire countdown? Tell us below. And subscribe to Megamass, because the next machine may make all 9 of these look reasonable.